place. We have our plan ready to roll, pretty much. And just like every other district, the plan is there, it's ready to roll. It comes out to the board when it's finished and ready, and when administration's ready to let us see it. So that's what we're going to do tonight. And I'm going to roll it right into Mr. Zip's presentation with that. He had planned with Mr. Wright at presentation to go over some of the reopening plans for us. This is the overview. Mr. Zip.
Good. Well, thank you. Are we streaming?
Not quite yet.
All right, so I can ad lib. You were talking about the revote. I just want to thank you for accepting, as a principal speaking right now, for accepting Mrs. Morris's bid to put it to revote. Because as I'm going to preface with the reopening plan, at the end of the day, we always want to do what's best for our kids and our students here at Cheektowaga, and that was definitely the best. And you really see that once we really did a better job of communicating, of all of us working together, how successful it can be and what those results were. So I want to thank you for that. And just to plug that it's always a learning curve, like what can we do better? But I look at the pop-up that we had. How come we're not doing that every year? I had a blast sitting out there talking to people going by. It was 3 hours of my life that was worth every minute of it, and we had all those groups. So you learn something. So next year, I'll be pushing Steve to set that up. So sound good, you were setting mine. So that was just my little plug. But I want to thank you for having me tonight. As you know, Mrs. Morris asked me to, as I work towards my building certificate, and I'm actually, before this, I had my district certificate, sorry. I had my last meeting ever, and I'm officially done. I got to come out early to come present to you, but the professor was overjoyed that I was doing this tonight. So Mary had asked me to facilitate the reopening of schools, and I said gladly I'd love to do that, and most of you know me, I like to be in charge, and it's just part of my personality. So I did, and little did I know that she was going to say, she gave me everything. Obviously, all the final decisions were left to her. She is the superintendent, but she said, run with it. And I've worked hand in hand with Steve throughout this whole time, really making this work. And I'm really proud of what we have produced as a district. Before I really get going on that, I just want to mention that it was really interesting for me to take off my principal hat and put on the K-12 hat. Before I really get going on that, I just a lot of times want to mention that it was really interesting for me to take off my principal hat. You're zoned in on put on the K-12 hat. Before I really get going on that, I just a lot of times want to mention that this is a really interesting opportunity for me to take off K-12 hat. You're zoned in on put on the K-12 hat. Before I really get going on that, I just a lot of times want to mention that this is a really interesting opportunity for me to take off K-12 hat. So it's really important to put on the K-12 hat. Before I really get going on that, I just a lot of times want to mention that this is a really interesting opportunity for me to take off K-12 hat. So it's really important to want to reopening and going on that. I just a lot of times want to mention that this is what we're going to talk about tonight of K-12 hat. So it's really important to want to reopening and going on that. Content, a lot of times want to mention that this is what we're going to talk about tonight of K-12 hat. So it's really important to want to reopening and going on that. Content, a lot of times want to mention education fake rules. This is what we're going to talk about tonight of K-12 hat. So it's really important to want to reopening and going on that. Content, a lot of times want to mention education in your head. You can say, hey, this is what we're going to talk about tonight of K-12 hat. So it's really important to want to reopening and going on that. Plan development education in your head. Like I said, Mary, this is what we're going to talk about tonight of K-12 hat. So it's really important to want to reopening and going on that. Plan development make sure we're like I said, Mary, this is what we're going to talk about tonight of K-12 hat. So it's really important to want to reopening and going on that. Plan development make sure we're like I said, Mary, this is what we're going to talk about tonight of K-12 hat. Like I said, Mary, this is what we're going to talk about Like I said, Mary, this is what we're going to talk about Like I said, That
our community really, this is what our community wanted. Some of them, there's a balance, and then we have to make a decision. But this one, to what extent do you support or oppose complete online remote instruction? Number one, by the way, so I'll show you the results page. Does it, well, which one opposes, which one supports? 1 is opposition, 3 is support as we move through the survey results. So you can see that 31% oppose complete online remote instruction, 257, 43% support it. Number 2, when we were developing the surveys, was important to us. And like I talked about it for the first one. But the 2s are people that we feel we trust you. What you decide, we're going to go with. We can go either way. And that's why we had a scale of 1, 2, and 3. You're kind of in the middle. We're going to go with you, the school district, the leaders of our schools. So I really look at it, 25 and 43, 68% of our stakeholders support it. Next question is, to what extent do you support post complete in person? You can see that 38%, it's the higher number, although statistically speaking, I think these are pretty level. But there was a higher percentage that opposed complete in-person instruction, which I thought was interesting because you hear, oh, the kids got to be back in school, but this was the voice of our stakeholders. To what extent do you support or oppose a hybrid? And you can see again, 38% support hybrid instruction. And then add the number 2s that are in the middle, that are like, we're with you whichever way you go. You are at 74% of our stakeholders are good with hybrid. So due to the mandates that we're going to be following and everything else, if we were forced to go hybrid, I think we have our people in the corner. Overall, how would you describe your experience with online distance learning since school buildings closed in March? And this is up here intentionally, because I don't know how many people would really put this up in front of the Board of Education, right? 24.6 said they had a negative experience with online, and that's disturbing for me as a principal, because to me that means I had 700 kids, and at 24%, that's 160 kids that had a negative experience, which is way too many.
Now, that could be, though, I'm just going to say this, we had a discussion about this. It could be many reasons. So I look at that chart, that pie, right? And when I look at that, initially people think the same thing, but that could be many reasons. Because responses, like we talked about, of negativity were different things. It was that my kids don't like to learn that way.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't think my kids were on there long enough. My kids didn't think they were on. So there's a gamut of reasons. It doesn't mean it was your teaching. It doesn't mean it was their learning. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree.
We have to make sure that we know that there's so many factors that go into that piece.
I agree, and that really comes, it's a 10,000-foot view.
Right.
The 1,000-foot view of the principal is, that's too many kids for me, I'm figuring it out, right?
Exactly.
And that's where our flexibility is going to come in. And you talk about, March it was thrown at us, get home, stay home, learn, figure it out, get to June, call it a day. Well, this is real now. We have to really make sure we have integrity in our instruction. We got to make sure we have rigor in our curriculum. And while we're doing that, we got to make sure that our kids are not having a negative experience in whether it was, I don't enjoy learning on the Chromebook. All right, so what can we do? And find where our flexibility is going to be to make it the best it can be for all students. Yes, we can't appease everyone. It's not going to be perfect, and we're going to make mistakes. But my goal is to get rid of that 24% as fast as we can. And that's K-12. This wasn't high school or middle school. This is K-12, so we all have to own it. Moving on. Did I skip one? Sorry. The requirement of wearing a mask. Will you be sending your student to school in the fall? 16% say no, which is very interesting. You do the math of the district of 2,100, that's 315 kids. 315 kids will not be attending if we're mandating masks, even at social distancing. So these are things that we need to keep in mind, and at the same time, parents do have that right, and I'll move into that when we start talking about some of our talking points. But I thought that was interesting, that 16.46, we're not done. The school, this is very important, so I'm going to preface this next 3 slides of data. When we were talking about hybrid instruction, committees met, we had 3 different hybrid plans. I would tell you that, honestly speaking, I would not have picked the plan that we've picked, but now that we've picked it, I'm 100% on board, because I was looking through a total different lens that the teachers brought to me. And I was like, oh, good thing we met, because your principal would have this and it was stuck. Or not, I should say that, it wouldn't have been as efficient or as good. So meeting with these people and having these committees was a great thing. And it's interesting what the parents said. So this first one was prioritizing pre-K through 6. So we're talking about pre-K through 6 coming every day, utilizing the whole campus, having social distancing, 50% capacity, bringing our 7th and 8th graders twice a week, bringing our 9th through 12th graders once a week. So we at least had some personal FaceTime, built some relationships. And I was amazed when I saw these results. You can see they're relatively equal, but I thought everyone was going to pick, yes, please prioritize pre-K through 6. And that was not. It was pretty much an even distribution across the board. The next hybrid that we talked about, we asked about, was a weekly rotation. This is the one I was picking. Oh, this is a great idea. Continuity of instruction. We have the kids for a week. We can do this. We can do labs. We can, right? And I was all over the place. And someone finally said at the teacher meeting, but by the way, Scott, they're going to be out of school for like 9 days. We're not going to see them for 9 days. They're going to forget everything. You ever talk to these kids when they come back from Christmas break or holiday break? They're like out there. And you can really see our stakeholders were opposed to that by a large percentage, 48.5. So thankfully, that wasn't the one. And then the last one was talking about to what extent you support the 2-day rotation, and that's where we're at. And you can see that our stakeholders, 44%. This is what they would like to see, which is really, for me, this was rewarding to go through this process. Sometimes, school districts put things out there, but they already have their decisions made, but we're going to make it look like we're interested because we're supposed to. We didn't do that. We were interested. We did multiple forms of communication with surveys, phone calls, and so on and so forth, and we used the data, and I'm very proud of our district, everyone, for doing that. So this is where we'll be when we start talking about hybrid. And interesting for us, do you have a daily care? This one was a little heart-wrenching for me. Do you have a daily caregiver throughout the day? Should we be remote? And 38% don't. And that's tough for me thinking about. So I'm going to tell you, or not, but as a district, we're going remote because we have to, based on the mandates that we have to follow, the Department of Health and CDC guidelines, and 38% don't have daily care. Now, it says daily. My hindsight, I wish I would have worded it differently, but daily may mean they have it Monday through Thursday, but not Friday. So I don't know that looking at that chart, but just looking at that, it's like, man, we have some stakeholders that are really going to be working hard for child care, which is unfortunate, but again, it's not going to be the perfect size for everyone. Talking points. This is probably what you're most interested in anyhow. So, the 2 I have on there are the safety and school models. Safety kind of tied in with a little bit with transportation. We can ask questions about that at the end. But health and safety, mandates and guidelines. So as we created this plan, we had many different manuals that we had to read. From the CDC, the Department of Health, OSHA, New York State Ed, and New York Move Forward. If you're unfamiliar with the term New York Move Forward, that's just the governor's office and what they were putting out for many different things of opening in New York. The major topics that we covered in health and safety: face coverings and barriers, social distancing, preventative hygiene and education, health screenings for both staff and student, exposures, symptoms, and positive tests. Now, there's more in the health and safety, but these are the real talking points that the community probably wants to know about. My little visual there, Mr. Vona worked on that with one of his vendors, and I believe that's the one I see Terry putting them on the door as I was walking down here. That will be on every door as you come in, and that's our reminders about, that would fit under our preventative hygiene education, just on the doors for our visitors, what we're doing with our students. And those are the real talking points. The big one that's going to come across is face coverings, right? And that decision has not been officially made. And this is a working draft, so none of these have been officially made at this point. But is a face covering, well, if they're 6 feet apart, they're social distance, do they need to wear the face covering? If they're in a hall walking in the passing, do they need to wear the face covering? We know some of the obvious answers, but excuse me, some of them aren't so obvious, and some of those are going to be local decisions that we need to make, and we need to be strong with our decisions, and we need to stick with our decisions, and not that we can't go back and reevaluate them, but make a decision, work with it, and work with it for some time to measure the effects of it, or maybe even collect some data of was that a good decision. Social distancing for you, if that question comes up. Our classrooms, every student will be 6 feet apart. When you're talking about phys ed band course, it's 12 feet apart. Anything with respiratory air being moved, we have to be 12 feet apart. In the cafeterias, by the way, with that, if you're not 6 feet apart, you don't have a choice. You have to wear a mask. That's a mandate. That's everywhere. In the cafeteria, if you're not 6 feet apart, behind you eat, you have to wear a mask. Well, then you have to have a divider. Well, that divider is very, very expensive. As a group of administrators, we have figured out our campus of what we can do, and our students our high school students will be able to eat in the cafeteria. They'll be more than 6 feet apart, so they don't have to wear the mask, and we rotate through, and middle school will be doing something a little different. I don't want to get into the specifics of the plan, but it's in there. You can ask questions when we're done. But those are the health and safety things that you probably want to know, and we come back to that with the questions. The other one is the school models, mandating guidelines. So obviously New York State Ed is where we are getting our mandating guidelines from. Obviously New York State Ed has the ability to relieve some of the mandates that they have during this time. Not that they've relieved a whole ton, because they haven't, but a full return, we know what that is. That's going to include a lot of mask wearing and a lot of reminders of supervision of the hygiene and what we need to be doing. With the mandates that are currently in place, we can't full return. It's actually impossible the way that I see it. Not saying my view is the only view, but with the mandates of 6 foot, we couldn't do a full return at this point. Which brings us to a hybrid. I mentioned that we had multiple hybrids, and we met with the committee, and this is the hybrid that we have met with. This was through our teachers, there's 2 parents on there, administration, union, this being the most effective hybrid, the most effective form of instruction where we can have integrity of instruction as well as some rigor of curriculum, seeing the kids with not such a large gap of 9 to 10 days. So Group A would come in person on Monday and Tuesday. They would be off Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Group B would be remote Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they would be in person Thursday and Friday. Group C, you can see they come Monday, Tuesday, remote Wednesday, in person Thursday and Friday. You may ask what that is. Group C is our high need students that need to be here and be in person more than others. Others maybe our ELL kids, special education students. It could be a regular education student that just needs extra assistance that may be in that cohort. And then cohort D is something that we are doing. This is something that not a mandate, isn't a mandate, it's unclear to the state, but we are offering remote instruction for those who choose. And I think that's very important for our families that they have some choice in their child's education. There are children out there that learn better remotely than they do here. We may, as educators, like, oh no, you have to be here. But, not the square peg doesn't always have to fit in the square hole. So we're going to offer that, and based on our survey results, we're going to have 150 kids that want to choose that, and when they know that number might go up, and then it's going to be on us as leaders to figure out how are we delivering that instruction, and then on top of that, it's on us as administrators, and it rolls downhill. superintendent holding the principals accountable, principals holding the staff accountable, then we have integrity of instruction, and we have quality curriculum that has rigor.
You left that bold piece out, although I know it's not finalized, as a talking point.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna mention it, but just because I think it would be difficult for you to talk about in the community, but I'll go with it. That says all cohorts will remain consistent for a minimum of 1 semester. So if you opt to be remote, you can't just say, hey, I'm coming back Monday.
No.
Because we have an obligation of social distancing, creating class lists for how many kids can be in the classroom, and 10 kids do that, that changes the dynamics of everything, and we're not gonna be in a position. Now, if you're here and you choose to go remote, that's fine, and we, honestly, we can't keep you from doing that, you just won't come to school. So, one thing that's on there that I wasn't gonna mention it is, I'm wondering if a semester's too long.
I don't think so.
So do we back up to a quarter? I have my opinion, but as we move through this process and we're being inclusive, and we had a lot of administrators on it, we're gonna bring it to the table tomorrow to, really decide, but I would like to see the 1 semester.
Well, it all depends if the students are fully remote, if they fall behind on grades, they'll have to be changed, or as long as their grade is up to par, remote, if they're responsible for keeping up with that, with their lesson plan, so they can stay remote. That's usually for the seniors, maybe. We're most likely for the seniors, or
Well, for us, that could be anyone, if you're comfortable, but where we haven't gotten is there's gonna, so I guess I'll just talk about it. There's going to be some guidelines if you choose full remote. If you're carrying a 52 average, then I tell you, you have to come back. You're not gonna be available to be full remote, but, you know, we're gonna run into some, it's society, that's how it's going to work. My son has a 52 average, but I want him remote. Well, then you're gonna run into this, right? Who's right? And we always try to err in the side of doing what's right for families, but as professionals, we gotta know what's right for kids, and sometimes our opinion may differ than parents, but those are healthy conversations we can have with parents, they are. And parents would understand, okay, well, let's do this and see if it, and we will work with that. But there'll be a lot of individual cases when we're dealing with that. That again is not one size fits all, but we have to kind of have a working, a starting point. So, you want to add something?
No, I just appreciate you hitting that, but it is a draft and there's still more conversation
Yes.
tomorrow. Because somebody could have read that in our draft plan and taken that out as our community's watching and saying, oh, this is the way it is. But there could be changes, so thank you.
Yes. All right, and then full remote, this is, I have another link that I skipped over, but. So full remote is obviously full remote, no one's here, that would be probably based on the governor's executive order that we need to go full remote. And what I want to show you is, this will be in our plan, but this will be a live link, it's not live, this one might be live because I think it was done. But this is for our families and our stakeholders to see, you know, computer-based instruction, asynchronous, synchronous, and I won't read it all to you. The right-hand column is really the important part. If you look at pre-K through second grade, you know, what are our expectations of screen time with working with the teacher? And if you look at this top portion here, this from my finger up, that's screen time, like working with your teacher. This is what our expectation is. Below that, the next 4 rows, that is going to be what we expect you to do on your own. So the top is like instruction and the bottom is homework. And then we just put all the fancy educational words to it. Asynchronous, synchronous, right? But in layman's terms, the top is instruction and the second set is homework. Then we have things on the bottom that talk about small groups and support and Zoom. I don't have that portion done yet. We are making a Zoom matrix for our kids. We do the 5 B's, and we talk about our matrix of being responsible, being respectful, be safe, be kind, be on time. We're going to use those same headers to make Zoom conferencing expectations the matrix. And last but not least, I've got to go back to my presentation, I'm sorry. And last but not least is we have a frequently asked questions sheet that will be linked on our website as well. Those are your talking points. So I'm going to share this PowerPoint or this slide deck with you, Google Slides, and you'll have the whole thing, but this is the sheet that you may want to print out and have in your back pocket. This is what you want to be able to talk to the community about, because these are probably the questions that they're going to ask. And that's tough to read, because I had to do a little screenshot of it, but it was a PDF. So it has our remote learning, what our hybrid plan will be. If I want my child to be remote, do they have to wear masks? Are you going to offer electives? The things that parents are really interested in. Are there any changes in transportation? So if you take a look at that, this will give you a good baseline of conversation. My last highlight. Any questions for me? Anything within the plan? Something that I breezed over that you want a little more detail?
Let's go. What about after school activities?
So after
So
school.
that they're remote, they can come back, they have after school activities?
Right, so right now, after school activities are on hold. Nothing, and when I talk about after school activities, I'm talking about anything extracurricular, play, clubs, activities, sports. Those are all on hold right now because there's been no for sure that you can or can't do these. Some of those decisions may be made at the local level. As you know, with sports, there's a whole governing body for sports, so we won't make that decision. New York State will be making that for us. But clubs and activities, so that will be part of tomorrow's discussion as well. That's a real tough one, right? Clubs and activities, we need things that are going to engage students. But at the same time, we got to mitigate the spread and eliminate the amount of contact. So as we have a club and activity. So like on the fence right now, and that's going to be up for conversation.
Mr. Zip, can I just clarify two things for our community?
Yes.
If they happen to be watching. You know how I like to do that. Language is powerful. When you were talking about cohorts A, B, C, and D in the hybrid model, you said cohort A would be in school on Monday and Tuesday, and they would be off the other days. But in your slide, it really showed remote learning. They're not off.
That is correct. So if I sit off, that is definitely.
And I want to make sure that everybody knows we're doing schooling 5 days a week.
We are school Monday through Friday, and I'll add to that, our staff with that model, if we are hybrid and have that model, our staff will be here Monday through Friday.
So another statement you had said, if we were on full remote, no one would be here, but to clarify that,
No students will be here, but all staff will be there.
you've done a wonderful job, and you've taken this huge piece and put it there, and I just wanted to clarify those two things.
I also took 30 minutes for a 15-minute presentation.
Yes, I'm aware.
Fantastic.
So I apologize.
So you
Are
appreciate it.
there any other questions?
I had a question.
Yeah.
On the phone calls to the parents about transportation, how did it look?
I don't have all the data, so we were all curious. We were like, oh, what were they saying? What were they saying? And it basically was about 30% where I'm going to drive my kids. But what happens is if I ask after 100 phone calls, that data can be distorted quickly, especially when you get 2,000 phone calls.
Right.
So there's only 130 people, it looks like 30%. After 1,000, that's only 3%. So
We have a lot of drivers anyway.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of people.
So, yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of families that opt to drop off and pick up their students just due to what's going on.
And then just the only other thing I would say is when you went over the surveys where it was the support and oppose, and you were surprised that a lot didn't want to prioritize the K through 6. Out of those responses, not all of them have kids in K through 6.
Correct.
True.
Right?
So those families are not going to want to prioritize K through 6 because they're
Right.
looking out for their own children.
So what's interesting is one of the pieces
Yes, they should.
one of the pieces of data that I did not put up there, so I was trying to limit the presentation a little bit. One of our questions was, are your kids involved in K6, 7, 8, 9 through 12? Those are the only 3 choices. Because we can now match your response of your child
Right.
with your response of that question. If you think about it, the majority of people that filled out the survey for K through 6 parents. So I thought that would be a higher level.
Yes, right.
So it was really, just really interesting. But this is why, as a district, as a community, it's important to do these things, because my notion is, oh, this is definite, right? I don't know what I know.
I thought for sure too. That's why I thought maybe it was more high school and middle school age surveys that came back and said, no, they didn't want to prioritize. But it sounds like,
And you had a response rate of 598, so almost 600 individuals responded out of a possible 2,200, which is a pretty high return rate for a survey.
I actually have a question about what sort of resources are we going to be giving our teachers? Because now instead of just preparing to teach in person, they're going to be teaching in person and synchronous remote and asynchronous remote potentially, and they're going to be they're going to be dealing with potentially like 3 different sets of students, because asynchronous grading is going to be different than synchronous grading, which is going to be different than in-person grading. So what sort of resources are we going to be arming our teachers with so they don't burn out this year?
Right, and I tell you, this is gonna sound, I'm definitely biased, so I'll put that out there. But 4 years ago, this district went to a different schedule on Thursdays for professional development.
Mm-hmm.
It was like taking a chance, right? We were really taking a chance. The community wasn't against it, and it turned out to be one of the best things that we've ever done, due to the fact that we have time and administrators were charged with providing this professional development. Well, we've been doing that for 4 years. We really took an interest in the thoughtful classroom that of really creating dynamic instruction that was engaging for all students. What went from there was last year, prior to COVID even happening, we were moving because Mary had set up her 3 priorities. Well, 21st century skills, which is not just using a computer, not mistaking that, but in using 21st century schools and talking about 21st century skills and talking about technology, we were already ahead of the curve of looking at online platforms. So prior to COVID, let me go post-COVID. Everything we were using, we were already using, minus maybe a couple platforms that Ron had to get for us that teachers came across. So what we were doing at all 3 buildings is teachers were doing professional development for each other. The administrators were moderating it via Zoom, and they were teaching, hey, this platform, Paradigm, is awesome. You guys got to see it. You can do this, you can assess kids, you have notes, you can watch it work, you can control their screen, and 20 teachers were in that. And then this person over here was doing this, A to Z learning. So we're in a good spot. Not that we can't improve, because we need to improve when I talk about the integrity of instruction, because not everyone's doing it. What we're looking at is, if I go back to that hybrid model, if you notice, no students are here on Wednesday, but our whole staff is here on Wednesday. And the way that we think we're going to develop that is there's going to be office hours where teachers will need to work with kids remotely. But part of that day is going to be some deep PD of developing these online platforms. And I'll tell you, my ultimate goal as a school leader, and if I could put this into the plan, because Mary gave me the keys to drive it, would be this. Every lesson you do has to have the ability to stand right here and do it, or be at home in your bedroom and do it because you're remote. And if we can land that, our school will be as a district, we can be very, very successful. Does it look different in pre-K than it does 12th grade? Without a doubt. But generally, that's my goal, to get all of our staff. And our teachers, I think, will be on board, because even as an administrator, we don't want to do what you said, right? Well, I got to teach the kid here, and then I got to do a little something different for this guy, and then I got to do a little something different for this group, because if he's never here, that can become frustrating and build up anxiety. Our goal is to create this path of every lesson can be digital, can be remote, can be in person, and get the best of it. All 3 will work well. Anything else? All right, I want to thank you for the time. Hopefully you got something out of this, and you have some talking points and you have a little understanding. I will tell you that tomorrow is going to be the big meeting, and we're really going to iron this out. And what we post on Friday will be It will still stay draft because we want to have the ability to change it, and things are going to change, the numbers are going to come out with different mandates, but I'm pretty proud of all the administrators and what they've done. So,
Thank you. You did a fantastic job.
Well, thank you very much.
Everybody did. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and I appreciate the invite. I'm sorry I wasn't able to make any of those Zooms. I with my work schedule, but I heard a lot of good feedback from my fellow trustees.
Thank you.
And kudos to all the administrators and staff that worked on that, all those phone calls, all those surveys.
There was a lot of work.
A lot of work in this.
Apologize, I don't know what 15 minutes.
It's okay.
When you work at it.
I have to take a second. I forgot in the beginning when I was talking about what the board, what we did with our trustee reports. The pop-up day, and I thought of it as I was going through, pop-up day was also a hot dog roast, where, I want to say, a drive, whatever, I want to say, what. So it was a hot dog roast where if you wanted to give a donation, you could. The proceeds from that went to the essential workers at St. Joseph's Hospital. So that was a wonderful thing that our district did to say thank you to those essential workers during COVID and give them a shout out that we appreciate them. I didn't want to forget to say that, and it was on my mind. So we will get back to our regular meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Zep, and everybody that's worked so hard to go through these meetings and have this plan come to fruition for us. And I'm proud of it, everybody, and appreciative. Okay, so citizens open forum, there's no one here to address the board. Attorney's report, there's none this meeting. Consent agenda. Does anyone have anything that they would like to remove? There being none, I could have a motion for consent, please.
Make a motion.
And a second? I'll second. I have a motion by Mrs. Karpowski, or by Mr. Leary, a second by Mrs. Karpowski. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Okay, superintendent's report.
Thank you. I just want to first recognize the CCTA and the CSEA for the same exact reason you did. When they heard that people would be coming, they wanted to do a community service project, and that's what their teaming up led into the Poppin event and bringing in the PTSA to be able to do some community event for our essential workers. So again, another shout out to our CSEA and our CCTA for the efforts that they did. I know it was appreciated. The first thing that we have are some paid leaves. There is no board action that's required, it's just for your notice. The next piece we had tabled earlier, first we have to abolish one administrative position in the tenure area of school assistant principal. And that's a position that was eliminated in our budget.
Okay, can I have a motion, please, for the abolishment of one administrative position in the tenure area of school assistant principal?
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second. I have a motion by Mrs. Karpowski, second by Mrs. Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
Our second one is to abolish the position of special subject tenure area of library media specialist. This was tabled at our last meeting, and we're bringing it forward now. So the recommendation is to eliminate the 1.0 position.
Could I have a motion for the abolishment of the special subject tenure area of library media specialist? Motion? Second. I'll second. I have a motion by Mr. Warburg and a second by Mr. Kowalski. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried.
So along with that, we are requesting to create a .4 teaching position in the special subject tenure area of library media specialist to be able to meet the needs over at UEs.
Can I have a motion, please, to create the .4 position, library media specialist?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Karpowski, a second by Mr. Schaefer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
And we have an addendum that was put on for a member who is planning a paid leave of absence. However, I do believe, Marianne, no
Yeah,
action
no
required. Okay. So it's just for your information.
Board related
then we have the attendance report. And that's just for your information.
Thank you.
And our next piece is the Erie County Association of School Board membership.
I need a motion, please, for the approval of the Erie County Association School Board membership for the 2021 school year. The membership fee remains the same at $6,927. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
And a second. I have a motion by Mr. Kowalski, second by Mr. Schaefer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Business related.
So we have your financial reports for your review. No actions required.
Thank you.
And then our final piece is our tax warrant and rate.
Okay. Can I have a motion for the 2021 tax warrant and rate? Be it resolved that the Board of Education to Chihuahua Central School District approves the 2021 tax levy of $25,753,775. And that's 19.169125 per thousand of assessed taxable value. The levy has been certified with New York State Comptroller's Office and is in compliance with the New York State property tax cap. Can I have a motion, please, to accept that? And a second? I have a motion by Mr. Lear, second by Mr. Warburton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Do we need an executive session? We do not. Could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting till 8 o'clock? I have a motion by Mr. Kowalski to adjourn and a second by Mr. Schaefer. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you. Good meeting, Mr. Lee. Thank you. Great job. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Mr. Zip, for all your hard work. Mr. Revere, Mr.